shadow on the wall that looks like a man. Lord, that lamp just moved on that stand. I got movement in the cellars, I got footsteps in the hall. There's no time to waste, I better make some calls. I gotta get ready, make everything right, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team, let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. This old house has a long history. It should be real, real good for activity. And we got the house wired for sound and got motion alarms setting all around. Got a box full of batteries ready to go, and everyone's itching to start this show. Got our logo tees, driving black SUVs, and that one bald guy with a slick goatee. Let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. Well, there's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team, let's get started. Hey, this is your big brother Mike calling. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. That's right. Go get 'em, boys.
And welcome everybody, welcome to Pema TV.
Welcome to Friday, February 8th, 2013.
Already the 8th of February.
Already.
It's almost time for that most consumerish of holidays.
My birthday?
Well, other than that,
Oh,
yeah, Valentine's. It's almost time for Valentine's Day.
it is.
It is.
Yeah.
What you gonna give me?
Hard time.
That's probably. Glad everybody could join us. Hope if you're on the northeast coast, we hope you're being safe right now.
Hope you have power right now.
Yeah. Speaking of being up in the northeast, in May, the first weekend in May, which all the storms should be over with by then.
We can hope.
Can only hope. Be sure and join us from PEN up there at the Lure Catskills Paracon
At the Shanley Hotel and the adjoining
Senior Center. I'm not pronouncing it either.
Shawangunk Valley
Yeah,
Senior Center.
that one.
Yeah.
Don Tinney will be there. David Roundtree, Tracy Ray, Patty Zakis.
Athena Veronis, Deborah Heinecker,
Sure.
Mary Gasparo, Betty Comerford, and Steve Wilson. And we have some lovely vendors such as Robin Marie,
D-Dub will be there.
James McCain.
James McCain will be with Robin Marie. D-Dub will be there with her coffee.
Bring extra.
That's no
Just
kidding.
saying.
We'll have some representatives from the Sarah Harris Foundation, and we're constantly adding vendors. So if you have any information or you're very curious, go to PEN events.webs.com for all ordering information, and hurry up.
All the packages are at discount prices. Grab them now because they go offline 2 weeks before the Paracon, and then you pay a la carte.
That's right. Okay, folks, but tonight we are joined by
Mark Waldenberger.
and Mark. Can
Hello.
you hear us? How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. I just wanted to say thank you for having me. I sure do
Our
appreciate it. I'm humbled by being asked to come on the show.
Oh no, we appreciate you coming on. Trust me.
Well, like I told him, I said, I have 3 openings right now. I have tonight, March, or April. Well, it was the last date in March.
If you could, Mark, give our viewers just a little update on you, a little history on you. Where do you come from? What are you doing? What's up? How's it hanging?
Well, let's see. I don't know if you'll have anybody awake after that, but I'll give it a go. I live in Holman, Wisconsin. It's a smaller community in La Crosse County. We're in the west central side of Wisconsin. Let's see. Right now, I'm just doing like everybody else, trying to make a go of it. This wonderful, trying economy that we've got going on, and getting in my paranormal investigations here and there. And I'm working with several people now. We're trying to get an established set of protocols and things like that down that we can provide to the paranormal research community, so that we can kind of standardize everything across the field and come up with something that people can use, that's easily interchangeable between the United States, Canada, Europe, wherever.
All right.
So we're kind of working on that. And, I'm a dad, single dad, with 3 daughters who keep me hopping constantly.
You poor man.
Well, I wouldn't swap them for anything. They're wonderful. And I've got 2 little budding paranormal investigators in the offing. My 2 youngest, Sarah and Hannah. Especially my Hannah. She wants to go out with Dad and be an investigator and a field researcher. So.
And one of them likes Hello Kitty.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's they go a little nuts over the Hello Kitty and that. And my oldest, she's a big anime fan now.
I'm really so sorry now.
Yeah, it's
we were at a horror and tattoo convention last April, And what we didn't know until we got there was the next 3 floors of the convention center was an anime convention.
Oh yeah,
I was attacked in the mean streets of Nashville by a ninja. Seriously.
Well, I mean, my daughter has, and I will give her this. My oldest, her name is Emma. She's quite the budding artist, and she loves to draw. And I've never seen anything like it. She can sit down and look at one of these anime books, and then she'll scribble out a drawing, and you look at it, and you're just like, wow, that's actually not too bad. So.
But you're a graphic and new age artist, so it should run in her blood.
Well, I'd like to say that she gets it from me, but I'm not sure. She's got her own unique style, and I think she comes by some of it probably, honestly, but I think the rest of it is all her, and she's got a really great mind, which I'm ever so grateful for. All of my girls are really intelligent and smarter than their dad, and they're healthy, and I thank the good Lord for that every day. So.
What got you started down the paranormal path?
Well, that's an interesting story because I didn't really at first even consider, investigating ghosts or studying that or researching it or anything else. What got me started was my dad took me to that movie, The Legend of Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in a movie theater. I remember going in there with my dad and watching that show, and just kind of parts of the movie I was covering my eyes and just not really sure I wanted to see certain parts of it, but that really got me going, and then I just kind of started picking up on that, and then cryptids is where I started out. I really got interested in Bigfoot and abominable snowman, Yeti, things like that, and I just kind of became a sponge, and I'd spend a lot of time in the libraries just picking up anything I could, reading about them. And then as time went on, and I got done with high school, I went into the military. And it was while I was traveling around in the military that I had my own personal encounter with an apparition that was, as near as I can tell, it might have been place memory, something to do with the stone tape theory. We were at that time I was at Fort Lee, Virginia. And we actually went to a battlefield that wasn't too far away from the post on a weekend. There were 3 of us who went. And as we walked into this battlefield park, there was an area off in the trees where you could move around in there and everything. It wasn't really dense, and it was right near one of the historic buildings that was on the battlefield itself. Mm-hmm. And as we were walking in, we saw this Union artillery limber that pulled up, and it was a horse gun. It was drawn by, it looked like cavalry soldiers. I mean, they had the shell jackets, and we could see everything. And they looked just as solid as us, and the horses came rumbling up through the trees, and they had this gun that they were pulling along behind them, and they pulled up, and the guys dismounted, and they unlimbered the gun, and they pulled it off and got it ready to go. They loaded it up, and they fired a shot, and then they were milling around a little bit, getting everything back together again. They hooked the thing up, and then they tore off back the direction they came, which was back towards the back of the trees. Now, this whole time, we're sitting here clapping, we're going, wow, hey, that was great. They must have reenactments here and stuff and living history things. And so we proceeded into the park, and we went to the ranger station and the visitor center there, and it was built over artifacts that they had found on the battlefield. So while you were in the building, you could actually look down and you could see like pieces of muskets and different accoutrements, uniform pieces, buttons, everything in there. And while we were looking at this, I just went off to the side and I asked one of the park service people there. I said, we saw that reenactment on the way in. Are going to have more things like that scheduled because we had the weekend off. And she just kind of looked at me and she says, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Well, as we were coming into the park, I said, we saw that artillery limber and everything pull up, fire off a shot. And that was awesome." I said, "Are you going to do more stuff like that this weekend?" And she says, "We don't allow reenactments in the park or reenactors." And I just kind of looked at her, and my two buddies that were behind me kind of looked over at me, and they were like, "What?" And we're all just sitting here, okay, what did we just see? And we could not, for the life of us, figure it out. And at that point, after she talked to us and everything, gave me a strange look, we walked out of the building there and stuff, and immediately we walked back to where we had seen it all. And we were walking out here into the tree line. We're trying to see, they had to be here, right? We saw them. They were obviously here. We heard the shot. We saw them talking. Their horses, the reins, everything. No wheel marks anywhere in the ground out there. The pine needles weren't disturbed or anything. We didn't see anything that even looked like anybody had been there. But when we walked in, we saw those guys just as solid, and it was 6 men on 6 horses with this gun. And we saw them just as plain as day and just as solid as we were standing there. And up until we asked her, we had absolutely no idea that we had probably just seen apparitions. And that's why I say, now years later after I think about it, I think it must have been like a place memory or something during the battle. And it just so happened that that time when we were there was summer, which is when the battle happened. In fact, I believe it happened probably around that same time that we were there, if I remember correctly. Because there was a whole series of battles in that part of Virginia that just kind of, they ran right in sequence. And it was hot, which I'm sure it probably was then too. So the only thing I could think of years later as I thought back on it was maybe everything was just right that at that time when we walked into the battlefield, that memory replayed itself. So it was quite an amazing thing, and that's what really got me started into studying hauntings, ghosts, and related phenomena along those lines.
So did you have any type of experiences when you were a child? Deanna Kelly has done studies to where most paranormal investigators originally had sightings, feelings, whatever, some kind of haunting when they were little.
Well, that's kind of strange too, because I don't really remember anything specifically about hauntings. I remember getting impressions when I was younger. We lived in an older house along a highway, and it was kind of set out of town. And I do remember that the basement used to creep me out a lot in that house. And there were certain things I just chalked them up to dreams, I think, when I was a child, of things that I couldn't explain. I think I may have told my mom and dad a couple of times about things that I saw or something under the bed trying to grab me. And I never really paid much attention to it because it wasn't something harmful, and I wasn't really scared of it. I was more, I think, intrigued by it. And but I honestly, to tell you the truth, any memories I have of that from that time, other than just general, is pretty much lost to me.
Right. Well, she did this online study,
Mm-hmm.
and it statistically it gave the age of the normal paranormal researcher. It showed that most had their first experience around the age of 8.
That probably would have been about this time, between 6 and 8. Yeah. I was younger when, I remember these things about my bed, and it wasn't, here again, looking back at that time and what I remember of it, it wasn't your typical boogeyman under the bed thing. That never really bothered me as a kid. And so that wasn't an issue for me. But as far as kind of being interested in what it was that was under there, I remember, I used to have a habit when I was a child of dangling my hands over the side of the bed. And, I've always had this kind of a thing. I guess they call it restless leg syndrome now.
Yes.
Even when I was a little kid, I used to have to move my feet around in the bed before I would fall asleep. And I remember a couple of times having my hand over the side of the bed and feel like something was touching my hand from under the bed. And then also a couple of times with my feet. So I'm not really sure if it was paranormal. It could have been an overactive child's imagination or what have you. I'm not sure. But I remember at the time it was enough, and it was enough of an event that I mentioned it to my parents a couple of times, I believe. But this was back, wow, this would have been like in the early 70s. And I don't think, of course, the paranormal was not as readily accepted then as it is now. I mean, it's come leaps and bounds now as far as the public awareness of it. Back then we were still, ghosts don't exist and things like that. I'm sure that played a lot into it, and that's probably why I just never really gave it another thought after that.
Has it changed how you respond to your children when they come to you with stories like that?
Oh, definitely. I've always kind of had a personal belief that, ghosts are like the people you encounter on the street. 99.9% of the spirits that you're going to run into in any location that's experiencing paranormal phenomena are going to be benign. It's going to be, for some reason, they want their presence known, get a message across. I can't personally imagine being able to see everything around you and in some cases interact with physical things around you and being there probably talking and nobody hears you. Everybody walks past you. And so what are you going to do? You're going to try and do something to get people.
Right.
And that to me is why I think most spirits sometimes feel that they have to go overboard, because we're just too cluttered with our everyday nonsense that we don't take the time to sit back and listen and actually hear when they are trying to communicate with us. So I know my girls have said things at different times. When they're with their mother, it's an older house. And I know they have said things. Now, they had 2 grandparents who passed away in that house. And I know there have been different times that they have talked about. My one daughter has described in very, very vivid detail having seen what she called shadow men in the house. And the thing that got me was she said that all you could see was like an outline of them except for their eyes. And she said their eyes were like white. And, I have always been one that, since my kids came along, I know that kids are more open to this. And, they haven't had all the whimsy and the wonder knocked out of them yet by the school system. So I've always tried to foster in my kids, if you see something, tell somebody about it.
Right.
Don't shut yourself up about it. Tell somebody. And I've always told my girls, if you've got anything like that you see, you come and you tell Dad. And so they do. I mean, they're very open about it. And, You know, that's one of those things that I'm grateful they actually listen to Dad. And
For now,
they're not shy about sharing experiences. So,
are you part of a major group at the moment, or how do you feel the dynamics should be when you go out investigating?
well, I've had 3 groups since I started really formally doing this. That was in about 1991. And right now, I'm just basically doing it on my own. But I'm looking at starting another group now. I've got a lot of people that have become interested in it, and some of them that I know, I think they would be, really good at this. And I try to foster, if somebody's got an interest, I try and foster them getting into it, learning all they can, soaking it up, and really getting out there and doing it. So I'm not affiliated with any groups right now. I've got former members of my groups who have, sprung off and done their own groups now. And I still occasionally will talk with them, and if they've got something going on, they always know that they can contact me, and I help them out as I can. But I think when you go out into the field, the way that I used to insist we did it was we always had our people with specific duties that they had out in the field team. We had somebody to handle the video, somebody to handle audio, we had somebody to handle photography, sometimes more than one, we'd have like 2 people. But we always kept our teams small. And I was always into, if more people were interested in going to a specific location we were going to, we would rotate teams. So, I mean, it worked out well. I didn't have a problem with that, and I think it doesn't overwhelm any spirits that might be there, because, let's face it, when it's 9, 10 o'clock at night, even if you don't have a concept of time or you don't need to sleep, you don't want a bunch of people walking through there constantly all night. And I've always kind of equated it to, coming over to somebody's house and visiting, and, company smells, and like dead fish, and I don't want to overwhelm them. Because I've always believed, and I tell everybody this right from the get-go, spirits are people. They have, for the most part, we believe anyway, that the personalities and traits that they had and things like that when they were in the physical realm carry over into the spiritual. So if you have an older gentleman who didn't really like a lot of company and didn't want to be bothered all the time, chances are, in his spiritual incarnation where he's at now, he retained a lot of that. So if you keep your groups small and you're very respectful how you go about your investigations, you shouldn't have any problems. Unless, of course, you run into the entities that, were not human at any time. And I've always believed that those are a rarity. I think if you dwell on that kind of thing, that's what you're going to find. But if you're just out there to communicate with, whatever spirits may be left there, or residual type energies or anything like that, if you just keep your head, be respectful, you really get surprised by what you can pick up as far as like electronic voice phenomena, photographs, and video. So, pardon me.
I concur. We're always very respectful. In fact, we really frown upon anybody that does a lot of provoking. There's just no point in it, and they don't. Those type of people are not the type of people that ever get any kind of data.
Yeah, and I see the provoking thing so much on television, and I think that's why you have a lot of people who are looking at this, who look at paranormal investigation not as a field as like we do, but they look at it, it's a thrill. Mm-hmm. It's something to do on the weekend. It beats going and paying, $100 or more dollars at the amusement park. You just go out to a cemetery somewhere and hang asking anybody. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to get as belligerent as I can. And I remember this was about 2 years ago. I ran into some kids at a local cemetery that our group had actually been out there and taken care of because the cemetery kind of got neglected. Right. And it was a pioneer cemetery. Been around since 1865. It sits right in the middle of an industrial park. And everything is built up around it. The cemetery is still there. And we have gotten everything from kids' voices to voices with German or Scandinavian accents, Scottish accents. We've got men, we've got women, we've got children. All of this, we've gotten different EVPs in there. So we figured it was our duty to go in there and help take care of this place. Now, this place has gotten ravaged by storms several times. We go in and try and help clean up and help out the Parks Department to take care of it. But one of the things that always bothered me was these kids used to use it as a scenic overlook. And they would drive their cars up into the cemetery and they would sit by this one oak tree that had to have been there for, over 150 years. And they always dumped their trash out up there. And we were there one night, we were conducting an investigation of a couple of stones that had been broken, and we got some interesting EVPs in. And while we were out there, it was dark, of course, and you couldn't see us. We didn't have any lights on. So these kids drove up into there, and they sat there parked, and sure enough, they went and started throwing stuff out of the car right by that tree. It was about that time I said, you know what, you guys just wait here. I gotta go talk to these kids. I just had enough of it. And so I walked over, and I walked over to the passenger side and tapped on the window. And I've never seen 3 kids jump so far or so fast in all my life. I thought they were gonna go right through the roof of the car.
That's what they get.
Yep.
The child that was sitting there on the passenger side, he rolls down the window real quick and he says, "Can I help you?" And I said, "No, but I think I can help you." I said, "You know what? I don't want to see you up here throwing this trash out anymore." And I said, "I realize when you're up here, you think you're here by yourself, but we've been coming here for a while now, and I can tell you, you're not here by yourself, so you might want to think about that next time you decide to joyride up here and throw your trash out in the cemetery."
Yep.
And the windows went right up, lights came on, the engine started, and down the hill they went.
People so often don't. They just don't think. Like you mentioned a while ago, you see the provoking on TV. And that just kind of, when you see people or run into groups that's all they do, where they get their information from.
Well, and the other thing too is, by definition, what we're dealing with is supernatural. It is outside the natural, outside the understood. And how much common sense does it take to figure out you don't toy with something like that? You don't go up and start making disparaging remarks and throwing curse words around and things like that. For the most part, you're dealing with people who come from another time, another social strata, a different way of doing things. Religion figures into it a lot, I believe. And I've always thought that one of the reasons that we run into spirits in cemeteries, especially like these pioneer cemeteries, isn't because they don't have anywhere else to go. I think it's because they literally took it, as you're going to be united with your physical body, at the last days. So they're hanging around for whatever reason. They missed their chance to go where they needed to be, or they chose to stay, and they're staying by their physical bodies. And I think there's a lot to that, just from the amount of stuff you get from, out in cemeteries, the voices. And a lot of times these aren't voices who sound sad or depressed or anything like that. It's just like they're going about their normal day. You're out there, they say hi. You make a comment about something, and off in the distance, all of a sudden on a recording, you'll hear a response to that. In the case of this Pioneer Cemetery, we walked in there many, many times, and we have the recorders running the minute we get out of the car. Because more often than not, it's like they're standing right there at the entrance to the cemetery, waiting for you to come in. And I mean, we've caught everything from kids who seem to be playing a game around us, and then you heard the mother a little bit later on in the recording calling their name, and then we recorded the child again saying sorry, like the mother was scolding them for being down there by us, come back up here. Their existence is such that when you come out there, you're not intruding, but you're inserting yourself into their reality. And you really have to be respectful of that and not, go all ghost provoker crazy and start breaking things and throwing things around and screaming.
Well, we've even gotten to the point to where if we're in a location and we have, like, one of the places we go, the hospital, and the Shanley, there are specific rooms that have specific names attached to them. And we've even gotten to the point to where you don't even go in the room without knocking and introducing yourself.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if more people would just take that to heart, it's just common courtesy.
Because, at the hospital, in the geriatric ward and in the psych ward, some of these people were there for years.
Mm-hmm.
So that was their home. You wouldn't walk into someone else's home without knocking. It's their room. You show them the courtesy of knocking, saying, hey, who is it, Mrs. Gibbs? How you doing? I'm here to visit again. Mm-hmm. And we found the more we're there, the more they seem to recognize us and, oh yeah, I remember you. Come on in,
Well, yeah, and see, that's been my contention all along. If you take the time to go to these places, and I mean really spend the time, you can't do it in these TV shows. You can't go in for, a few hours and, hit the place and then run. For one thing, you're not going to get anything much because you're not expending the effort. And, I mean, we've gone back. We had a house that we actually investigated for over 2 years.
Wow.
Going back. We would go down there every chance we got that the homeowners would let us in. And they had such a level of activity in that house that almost every time we got down there, we got something. I mean, they didn't have any pets. We used to get phantom cats all the time on our audio recordings. The wife had seen what she described as like an Amish-looking man with a Prince Valiant haircut. Full apparition that showed up in the kitchen. Just down the street from this particular house, they had a gentleman who woke up in the morning to go to work and saw a naked Indian standing in his kitchen. I mean, this entire area over there is just replete with paranormal activity. And one of the reasons that we attributed to it was because it had been shared at one time by Mormons who were passing through the area. And Native Americans had used it as a summer village setup because it was near to water and everything else. Now, the stuff that we got at this house, the more we went back, the more that we presented ourselves as being open to it and just really treated it like we were talking to somebody, the more they decided to reveal to us. I mean, we got a voice recording one night on 2 separate recorders at the same time. and these recorders were feet apart. And that to us was something you don't hear very often. It's not, you know, sometimes you'll get a recording on one recorder and not another.
Right.
Nobody else will pick it up.
Right.
On this particular one, we got the recording on two different recorders that were at least 10 feet apart. And we can go back and we can go sequence by sequence with the recording, and you can hear the exact same thing. And on one recorder, it sounds like they said, I envy you. And on the other recorder, it sounds like it says, good evening. Now that brings up, you know, the theory that we had that spirits are actually able to communicate one message, but have it have different meanings for intended receivers. And that's something that we've been looking into because, you know, when we listen to the recordings, it's just, I mean, it's there, you can hear it, you know it's a voice. It doesn't register, you know, when we do the analysis on it, it doesn't register where we should even be hearing a voice, but it's there. And we actually sent that into the AAEVP and had them take a listen to it, and they were equally shocked when they heard it, and we explained the circumstances that we recorded them under. So this is, I mean, we had members touched there. We had money that mysteriously showed up on a table, older coins. And this all came about because we went in there and we did it the right way, and we approached it like we were coming to their home, being respectful of their space, you know, and trying to make intelligent conversation with them and not, you know, come in as being combative or, well, you know, we want you to perform right now. If you're here, tip this table or something like that. You know, that's asinine and moronic.
Well, try going into your best friend's house and say, I'm in your house, I demand you show up right. You know what you're going to get? Probably the same thing you get from them. Mata or slapped upside the head.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I think there's a tendency, like I say, you know, and God love them. I love the Ghost Adventures guys. I think Zach, Nick, and Aaron do a wonderful job. I'm a little tired of seeing Zach getting possessed every other show. But aside from that, I think these guys, one of the reasons that they are so successful at catching, you know, phenomena on tape and getting half of the stuff that they get is because when they calm down, when that boyish, you know, let's go charging in there and guns blazing and really set them off and get some amazing stuff. Once that all calms down and they get back to being more insightful and putting themselves in the era, putting themselves in the place of the people they're trying to communicate. Have you ever noticed how all of a sudden communication for them just opens up when they do that?
Quite frankly, I don't hear
I don't pay much attention to them.
a lot of their EVPs. I don't hear what they're hearing.
Yeah, well, and some of that stuff, I'm trying to think of their names now here. I know I've seen them a couple of times. Constantino, Mark and Debbie Constantino.
Yes.
When they're with them and they're doing the EVP work, and you can really hear what comes out. I mean, go back and watch some of their shows sometime. When they have the Constantinos on and you can really hear the EVP work, it's amazing how when they stop being so abrasive and they stop being so in your face and they're actually sitting there and they're saying things like, you know, we just wanted to come and talk with you. We want to find out, you know, did this happen and things like that. And they take a more respectful approach to it. You know, you get more flies with honey than you do with salt. And it just seems like every time they calm down, you know, things start happening. You know, even this, and I'm still on the fence about this because I didn't see it, but where Nick encountered this female apparition at Linda Vista,
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
Yeah. Now, when they went in there and this all happened, they were very calm. They weren't provoking. They were talking in a calming manner. And see, that's kind of what I'm getting at. In the paranormal research community, we've got two camps, it seems to me. And then we've got a third group who's stuck in the middle. You have the ultra scientific camp that wants us to be able to go out and do everything by the book and do it methodically and scientifically and using the scientific process. And that's great. I have no problem with that. But then you've got this other group, and they're what I like to call them is the shock jocks. These are the guys who go in there and their whole reason for being isn't necessarily to help the people that are experiencing this phenomenon or anything else. They're out there to just get in there, get in the face of whatever's there, and elicit a response, and then record it. That's the only reason they're there. Now, in between those two, we have the paranormal field investigators and researchers who really love this work. They love the subject. The reason that they're doing this is because they want answers. And they get squeezed constantly by these other two groups. Now, to my mind, there's got to be a middle ground where we can incorporate the scientific approach with the people who just want to get out there and do the work. I mean, the people who honestly love to go out and just photograph. That's all they want to do. They just want to take photos. The people who just want to be videographers. The people who just want to go out and take soil samples and, document, the wires, overhead wiring and things like that, and naturally explainable sources for electromagnetic fields and things out in an area. There's got to be a place that we can find for everybody where we can use their talents without trying to shuttlecock them into this pigeonhole that the other two groups want you to be in. And, I don't see enough of that. There's so much, we don't have to worry about the scientists, mainstream scientists, picking us apart or picking our evidence apart. We're doing a great enough job of that on our own.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really got to stop, because the way I look at it is you have the paranormal investigators, okay? And we're over here, we were just in a car accident. And the rubberneckers are the public at large who are looking over there, seeing what we're doing, and they're wondering what's going on. And then you have mainstream science and the outfits like PsyCop and all these wonderful organizations, and the Amazing Randy, that washed-up has-been, who have nothing better to do than stand out there and tell everybody, move along, there's nothing to see here. And if you think about it, that's exactly what it is.
Yep.
But now we have this added dimension of the people over in the car wreck are sitting here and saying, well, geez, I wasn't driving, he was driving. It's like, come on, people.
Well, that's why Kim and I, over the last couple of years, when we first got into this field, we wanted to share everything with everybody. And we couldn't understand why people were the way they were until we kind of figured out that people that are, quote-unquote, in the paranormal are no different than the other rest of society. So they're going to be just as, how can I say this, they're going to be just as crappy to people and just as angry that you're doing something that they may want to do, but they're going to tear you apart no matter what you do. So over the last year or so, we've really, we have a group of people that if we have a question, we'll go ask. But other than that, I'm not doing this for anybody other than myself or to help somebody on the other side communicate. So I don't really care I know this sounds so arrogant, but I don't really care what 90% of the quote-unquote paranormal thinks, because I'm not doing it for them.
Well, and it's gotten to the point to where the egos are getting so ridiculous in the paranormal.
It's ridiculous.
That, best friends are no longer talking to each other, totally trashing each other here, there, and everywhere. Yeah. You've got groups who will go, oh, we had the best investigation, caught some really great evidence. Cool, where was it? Can't tell you.
Yeah. Or
Yeah,
you even get people going to conventions. This is my favorite one of the most recent stuff. You now have people going to conventions, and they're much like the rest of the paranormal. They're keeping the business card, the trifold, and the banner people in business,
And
t-shirts and hat people in business. But they're actually putting on their banners now as seen on YouTube.
Yeah.
So is Gangnam Style, but I bet he doesn't have a banner that says that.
In my humble opinion, and I've always thought this, I've written a lot on the internet. If you go to Facebook to the ghost hunting group that's on there, I chime in a lot on there. And, to me, when you're talking about money, when you're talking about notoriety and having a desire for that kind of a thing, you really have no place in the paranormal. I have so much more respect for somebody if they just come out and say, hey, we're doing the paranormal, but we're just doing it for the entertainment value.
There's nothing wrong with being a thrill seeker. In fact, we need a certain amount of that to keep some of us old timers motivated, because they do bring a lot of energy to the situation.
Yeah, exactly.
But don't claim to be a scientific research or just a paranormal researcher, period, if the only thing you're going to do is go out and try to get yourself scared. Because you're not. You're a thrill seeker. You're a tourist.
Well, and another thing is, if you're getting in this to get the black Suburban,
Oh, Lord. Yes.
own up to it. Say, I am starting a team so we can get a show.
Yeah.
Don't sit there and say, I did it for the scientific research and to help people and blah, blah, blah. And oh, yeah, I got a show. Look at me, look at me, look at me.
Yeah, and, I have to say, I am somewhat of a purist. When TAPS came out, I thought, God, this is so great. They're finally going to get it out here. It's going to be, mainstream. The people are going to look at it. They're going to see what we do. And this is going to be so great for us because people are going to open up and they're finally going to be able to talk about the stuff that's going on, instead of saying, well, it was just my imagination, or, the light was coming through the window in a certain way and it made a shadow over there. And I really did believe that. I really did think it was going to help open up a very open discussion about the paranormal and how, at one time it was such a very integral part of our lives, our belief systems. And then somewhere along the line, science and the educational system double teamed it and shoved it to the back of our psyche, and now it was wrong to believe it anymore. And the fact is, it's been with us since, they found out that Cro-Magnon man or Neanderthals buried their dead. There has been some belief in an existence beyond this one, something that made these peoples bury their dead with such care and such reverence, and something that they believed in beyond that. And, it's like when you sit out here and you watch some of these people that are just, like the TAPS guys. How many scandals have they been involved in now with people accusing them of making up, things for the show?
Well, to their benefit, the first 2 seasons of TAPS, they were actually in it for a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, they did open the doors to get the paranormal, to get more people to be able to speak about it freely, to get, people involved in it more. Absolutely great. After that, then they started adding other shows. And once they started putting 2, 3, 4 more shows, then it was like, we've got to up the game to stay ahead of them. And that's when I think things really started going downhill.
And I think that's when why Grant Wilson decided in the 8th season of the program to get the heck out of it, because he basically said as much. Okay, we've opened up the field, we've opened up the subject for discussion now, and I that's all I wanted to accomplish. I'm done with it now.
Well, I
But
think
see-
there's something underlying there because they're also selling the Spartan Hotel.
Yeah, there's
Well,
just-
yeah, I saw that too, and some people had mentioned, well, he wasn't wearing his ring for this episode, or
I don't pay attention
not-
to rings.
But see, that's the thing too, Mark. Is this what we're talking about now? Are two other subjects that people in the paranormal a lot of times don't want to think about, but are very, very important, and that's ethics and integrity.
Yeah,
I mean, we always refer. We don't call the shows by name. We'll talk about the Valiant Plumbers or the Triumphant Trio, and everybody knows who we're talking about.
And
Right.
we've met most of them.
We have, and we have nothing against the infotainment, like Kim mentioned. The infotainment,
right.
and I'm using that. That's the nicest way I can put it. I mean, like I said, it did broaden people's mind. It did make it water cooler talk. It did make it acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not considered. Well, we're still the crazy couple in the graveyard, but we're not
But
as crazy.
We're not the only crazy couple in the graveyard.
So,
Okay, I'm sorry, you guys can't take that. You can have part of that, but I trademarked the crazy guy in the graveyard, so you can only take part of that.
okay, well, we've never actually put that on a banner, but we
But see,
can. But we can be
that's
seen
what
on
I-
YouTube.
Yeah, you know what?
But
It
see,
starts out
you're the
TV
crazy
show.
You're the crazy guy. That's singular.
There you go. There you go.
But
It
that's
starts out with a TV show, and they started it out for the right reason. And like you were saying, God love them, they did get it out there in front of everybody. But then comes the marketing, the T-shirts, the subscribe to our newsletter, the family of satellite groups,
The bobbleheads.
And I mean, it's all there. It's not there to enhance the ability to gather information. It's not there to enhance our understanding of the phenomena. It's not there in any way to enhance our being able to understand the greater underlying question: is there continuation in some form or another of consciousness after physical death?
or the proper use of equipment.
Now, I must
Oh
say,
yeah, there's that too.
I must say, Rob Damaris is the most genuine guy I have met
That's
on,
true.
on the group.
Very true.
Well, in Rob's defense, we had met him in person, and we were talking about the case where is it, in the Bahamas or somewhere, where they had the hotel where Hitler was supposed to stay.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were giving
Hotel.
him so much grief because he's standing in the hallway, total battery drain on everything, and the man did not have a battery. And we're like, what? Come on, seriously. You're the first one to say you must always have your equipment ready, blah, 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 blah. Total battery drain. Where were your spares? And he hung his head. He's like, I know. I tried to pay them to not show that. I felt so embarrassed.
But
He was honest about it. He didn't say, well, this and blah, blah, blah. No, he said, yeah, I totally screwed that one up.
a specific example is the K2. Okay, the K2 is actually a wire finder for a wall.
Yeah, it's a stud finder. Yeah.
It's not supposed to sense a moving field. It can also get set off by anything. I think if a lightning bug got close enough to a K2, you would have 6 lights on it instead of 5.
Right.
I mean, it's not a good piece of equipment, but yet it was shoved in front of people's faces for 2.5 seasons.
Well, and see, but there again, it's product placement. It was the same thing as putting a bottle of Coke in there and saying, oh, you know what, I'm really thirsty. Why don't we all take a minute, we'll get something to drink, we'll hydrate ourselves, and then we'll go back in, and grabbing a big can of Coke and having the camera right there to get it.
But 8 years ago when they started, there wasn't a lot of equipment. They were starting out with, video cameras, voice recorders, K2 meters, whatever they could get their hands on. Like year 2 is when everything exploded and people were making boxes and gizmos and gadgets and little blinkies and more blinkies.
And I understand that. My point being is they never evolved from that when they should have.
Well,
Right.
but they've also brought in new stuff like the full spectrum, like
Right.
Well,
burying them in it.
Right.
the
But
thing that really got the K2 meter out there in front of everybody was that episode on, I forget what you call their show.
Sharon Tate.
Okay.
Search for the Unknown?
Yeah, when they were in the apartment up there in the Hollywood Hills, and supposedly they were getting, real-time communication using the K2 meter. And, and it was amazing because I went online to see right after that where I could find the K2 meter. And oh my God, the place was just ramped up. Well, we're taking orders now because we've already sold out our first. And I was just amazed. I'm like, could it get any better for these guys? I bet you they're getting a take off the K2 meter sales too.
Yeah.
And, the thing, who I have a lot of respect for? I don't know if you're familiar with them or not. Viper Paranormal.
We know of them.
Mm-hmm.
These guys have put out videos that show people how to do your own equipment on the cheap. I mean, to me, that is a great service. These guys have knowledge. They're sharing it with everybody for free. They're saying, hey, you want to do some interesting things with EVP as far as your analysis? Here's some programs we use. You can use them too. Let's show you how to do it. And that is the way the paranormal community should be. It shouldn't be all this, well, I'm planning on writing a book now, and I can't share any of this information with you. Or I've already written a book, and, I am so sick of this. I am the smartest person in the room crap that I could vomit.
Well, I agree, but I also don't think there are some out there that say, okay, this is how you use it, and then turn around and go, and if you don't use it exactly how I tell you to, you're using it wrong.
Right.
Those people are just as arrogant and ego-driven as the rest of the asshats.
Yeah, and that's the thing, we really need to get, and this is one of the things I've been pushing for, is we need to get a roundtable of paranormal researchers from around the world, and we need to have a paranormal summit, and we need to sit down, and we need to put these people in the same space for a few days, figure out what in the heck we can do to standardize everything, and take some of this very human emotion, like, this need for, being a star and all this garbage out of the equation, and just standardize some protocols, some, practices that we use, techniques across the field, so that a paranormal investigator in Australia is going to be able to do his investigation over there, share his findings with a colleague in the United States, and they're both going to understand exactly what the other's talking about.
Yep.
And that's what we need to do, plain and simple. We need to take the egos out of it, the smartest people in the room who get off on telling everybody else, no, if you're not seeing it this way, you're not seeing it correctly.
Yeah. I wish you all the luck in the world with that, sir. Bring a big truck, a really, really big truck.
Yeah. Well, the sad thing is, we could do it if we really wanted to.
Sure, but you would have to ostracize. You would have to ostracize half the community.
Yeah, and there comes a time when, and here again it comes back to, I hear everybody talking so much about, I really want the scientific community, the mainstream scientific community to like us. I want them to jump on board with us. People, here's the reality. They see no value in it. They're not going to expend the money, the resources, or the time on anything that we are doing because they do not see the value in it. Science, mainstream science, and I'm going to tell everybody this once and for all, this is where Mark stands on it, is a religion. These people worship at the altar of science. Nothing you can ever present to them, nothing you are ever going to bring to them, show them, allow them to test, or anything else is ever going to prove in their mind that there is any continuation of consciousness after physical death. They don't believe it. They don't want to investigate it. They could care less. We have become a punchline for them, and they like it.
Well,
And that's where it's going to stay, because they have no interest in coming on board with us. So we are either going to have to move this field along on our own and get it out there and come up with the accepted, protocols and procedures and everything else, so that we can validate ourselves rather than relying on somebody to validate for us this field of research.
well, you
And
know who
that's-
scientists are, though. Scientists are the kids we all picked on in grade school. Now
Yeah.
they're all getting together, and whatever scientific experiment they're doing, who says that this experiment worked? Other scientists.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why peer review is a joke. I mean, how many scientists in mainstream science have come up with some very valid points, some very valid ideas, some theories that, bore further, scrutiny and looking into. And they get shot down by a peer review, and all of a sudden, well, that's it. No point in, going on with that anymore. I'm just going to dump that.
I'm just saying these are the nerdy kids we picked on in school, so it's their turn now to go, yeah, you want to go play in the dark? Yeah, we're not even going to talk to you about it, dummy. Remember that
Yeah,
briefcase you took away from me in 3rd grade? I got a better one. Sorry.
And that's another thing too. It actually is a religion.
It is.
And I mean, if you talk to the guys on PsyCop and listen to their theories, they say that the spirit was over here. Well, then they'll sidelight you. And they'll say, well, okay, how far away was the spirit from you when you saw it?
3 feet, 2.6 inches. Now
Yeah,
what?
and it's like, can you go ahead and give me an idea? And right away they'll turn the discussion over into, well, you can't really, these people, we tested 30 people and they couldn't really tell the distance that well. Well, it doesn't take a genius to figure out they've changed the question.
Yes.
They're not asking the right question. And it's easy for a skeptic. What does a skeptic really, a diehard skeptic with no openness in their heart or mind, what do they really risk by calling you a fraud or a charlatan or a fake or you're mistaken? They risk nothing. And that's been my whole problem with these guys, and why so many in the paranormal research community put their focus on them. Because these guys risk nothing, but we are supposed to risk everything.
It's true.
And
Once again, Mark, that's why we started. We got to the point to where, like I said, we just don't care. You're not going to ever convince a diehard skeptic, and you're not ever going to change the thoughts or disprove anything to a true believer. So don't even. You're wasting your time and your energy. Our energy is better spent researching. And when science eventually figures out that there is something here and they want to catch up, then they can come talk to us.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the attitude we've taken.
That's why we need to get that message out to the paranormal research community at large. Stop worrying about who is going to, validate what you're doing. Stop worrying about being validated so much. As long as it has value to you, as long as it means something to you, as long as you had a personal experience that meant something to you, don't share it with the world. Keep it to yourself.
Well, and if you want to get technical, even recording on an instrument is a personal experience.
Well, yeah.
So it's all personal experience. So,
Yeah.
it's still going to boil down to where people believe you're not, and that's just going to be the bottom line,
Well,
no matter how you draw it.
And I'm a dowser, so everything's a personal experience,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, as long as we're okay with it, and we're not worried, I personally believe if we could just get everybody off this, we have to make the scientific community think that we're all wonderful and we're all happy, joy, one happy thing. It's never going to happen.
I don't care what the scientific side thinks. I honestly don't.
I really don't.
Yeah, I don't either. Because, like I said, you're never going to... You could walk... Okay, there have been so many of these Bigfoot things. We found a Bigfoot body. And there's been so many of them now that it's almost become a laughable joke. What do you think's going to happen when some guy walking around out in the mountains of California somewhere actually runs across a carcass that he found of one that just died probably from natural causes? It's laying there. Not anything that you really have to do about it. You could haul it out. You could take it to Jeff Meldrum or somebody like that and get it to them to look at. But is science ever going to believe it? No, because you didn't collect the specimen in the right way. You didn't have somebody there to watch you as you were collecting the specimen. See, it's a mirrors game.
You didn't bag the
You're going to do
hands.
it, and it's always going to be wrong because they're going to come up with some other goofy thing to throw in the way of why you didn't do it correctly.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. There are some with scientific degrees in this field that I have a lot of respect for. It's the overall.
More often than not, it's not the guys with most of the guys that are degreed and very college educated. They are the most helpful because they will tell you, what you're doing isn't wrong, but if you did it this way, they're constructive in their criticism. It's the pseudo-intellectuals that tell you, I researched this way, and if you don't research this way, everything you did is wrong and you suck.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Those are the paranormal bullies, I've made 3 or 4 or 5 or 12, appearances on my ghost story, so I have to know the paranormal better than you.
Mm-hmm.
No, you don't.
The ones that I especially enjoy are the ones who say, well, I've got 3 books published.
So?
And yeah, exactly. It's like, and that means what to me? Come out with me and do some field research, and then we'll talk about what we gather, what we don't gather, how we went about gathering it out in the field, and then we'll have a discussion about that.
Actions speak much louder than words. And Mark, I hate to do this, but we're running out of time, my friend. Where can people find you?
Well, I'm on Facebook, Mark Waldenberger, the only guy out there in Holman.
With lots of cute pictures with Hello Kitty on them.
Yeah.
I collect Hello Kitty, that's why I mentioned it.
Yes, she does.
My girls have a kitten named, she's not a kitten anymore, Oreo. She's a black and white cat, and they love her dearly.
I've wanted to make a hat out of her cat several times.
I leave my cat alone.
Well, once again, though, Mark, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody tune in tomorrow night for Namaste Yoga and Spiritually Raw, both episodes. Maureen will be back next week, so she won't be on tomorrow night.
And go by Just Saying on Monday evening. Robin Marie is our special guest, and she will be scrying some of our evidence, some of our paranormal pictures.
And tune in just after Just Saying for Off the Wall, because Tracy Ray will be joining Becca on Off the Wall, and Tracy is also going to be at the Paracon. So
lots going on, different live shows every night.
Yep.
Tune in. We're always here.
So once again, everybody, thank you for joining us tonight on Pema TV. If you go out hunting this weekend or researching,
We are.
safe. We are. Yay. Bye, guys.